of Newcastle alumni, Brendan Swansborough joined Enigma, a creative experience agency, as Senior Account Director in 2016 to work on a selection of key accounts. Before making the journey back to Newcastle, Brendan was involved in a slew of internationally recognised campaigns, including 2 consecutively #1 ranked NFL Super Bowl ads for Budweiser and 3 campaigns for Samsung that leveraged innovative technology to become some of the most awarded campaigns in the country. Since his time with Enigma, Brendan has been central to the McDonald Jones Find Yourself at Home and 360 Reasons to Be in Newcastle campaigns. Brendan's passion for creativity and innovation is the driving force behind a career that is built on creating iconic campaigns that emotionally connect brands with people. Welcome, Brendan. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
What career path led you to where you are now?
Well, I guess I've always been interested in advertising. When I started out, even before that, when I was in high school, my English teacher got me a gig in a TV commercial. Yeah, so it was for Renfield Sheds out in Tamworth, and it was all about, they had 7 display sheds. They made me dress up as a cowboy, and they were like, the Magnificent Seven's in town, and the Renfield Cowboys, come to check it out. And, it was terrible. It was a terrible ad, and I thought, if these guys can get away with this, then I'm sure they could make a living out of it. And so I guess 4 years later, I finished my degree at University of Newcastle studying business economics, and was lucky enough to get my first gig at Saatchi & Saatchi in Sydney, working on a bunch of really interesting brands like Tui's New and Cadbury and Procter & Gamble. And for a kid from the country, it was all really exciting, and I guess I got kind of a bit whipped up in the industry and the people in it. I guess I kind of loved it from the beginning, and I guess from there, I've been really fortunate the past 8 years to be able to work across a whole different bunch, a few different really interesting agencies, right from in Sydney and New York. But I think probably the best thing that's happened to me recently is to be able to find an agency that I think is still world class and as great as those agencies, but based in Newcastle. It's been a real win.
What motivates and drives you?
I think at a fundamental level, it's just it's connections, and I think advertising is all about connections. And I've always been really fascinated with connections, and even just meeting people and what forms those relationships. Like you meet someone and have a meaningful conversation. 10 years later, you're the groomsman at his wedding. Like, I love dissecting how that happened, and I think advertising is all about creating those meaningful connections between people and brands. And I love working closely with clients to get under the skin of their brand and understand their problems and their opportunities, and then working with them to make the brand and the work speak to people in a meaningful way. I really get a lot of enjoyment out of that, and I think the other thing is I just really enjoy every part of the process, right from the initial strategy through the creative process and concept development, right through to delivery, and then working with the media team. And now I just really enjoy working with my team and teaching them the intricacies of the process and still being involved in it myself. It's really fulfilling.
What has been the biggest learning curve in your career?
It's funny, so many learnings. I feel at a really broad level, and something I kind of realised, I think, after working in the industry for a while, is that you need to put the brand in the work first. And I think that was just something that once I kind of understood that, everything started to click, because it allows you to have those difficult conversations internally with the creative team where you just need to push a bit harder to make the work better. And I think it also enables you to confidently have conversations with the client where you need to push them to take that risk, because ultimately you're always putting the brand first. And it's any political situations that come up, it just allows you to navigate it because you've got that North Star and that core value. So I think that was a really big, just fundamental learning. And then I think probably more recently is, and I guess every agency, when you start at a different agency, the culture's different, it's a different people, different batch of clients, and everything has its own feel. And I think most recently moving to Newcastle, it's been a learning curve in itself, because the agency functions a bit differently. I think just by the basis of the size of the clients that you're dealing with and different size of budgets, it's meant a bit of a learning curve, and it's less so about advertising and campaigns, and more so about trying to understand their business and more holistically, and the commercial reasons behind why they do things and those problems, and helping them come up with longer term and short term solutions around that. Understanding more of the business side of things as opposed to just pure advertising.
Brendan, where would you like to be in 10 years' time? 10
years is a long time. Look, I think at this point I love the industry, I love the job, and I'm just really loving Newcastle. So it'll definitely be working in this in advertising in Newcastle, and in what capacity I'm not entirely sure, and it depends on a lot of things. But at this stage, I'm just really loving working at Enigma. I feel like the agency is in the best place that it's ever been, and that's just like the consensus it feels internally, and that momentum, you can just feel it. And when you're in agencies that aren't firing, you know it, and when you're in an agency that is, you can feel it, and that kind of carries everyone. And I think that, coupled with the momentum that you feel on the streets in Newcastle, and that's what brought me back here. You can feel the energy and the development and the progress. It's really evident, and I think those two things combined just make me really excited for the future. So yeah, I'm not too sure about where I'll be in 10 years' time, but hopefully, doing big things in Newcastle in the advertising landscape.
And to finish today, have you had any significant hunter-based mentors during your career that inspire you?
I think I'm really fortunate in that every day I get to show up and work with some crazy, smart, just passionate, creative people. So very lucky in that regard, and I think Lisa Sutton Gardner is just, I've admired her from the first time I met her, and I think the fact that she's built Enigma up on her own over these years and got it to the point that it is now, and still at the helm, is just like such an inspiring effort. So I've got all respect in the world for her, and I think, and then Pete Chapman as well. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. He found me on LinkedIn and took me for a beer at the Foresters in Sydney, and gave me the opportunity to do what I love and do it in Newcastle. So I'm very grateful for that, and I think we've got a very similar kind of approach to the way that we do things. So it's really nice coming to work every day with someone to get people that you get along with like that, and people who inspire you. I think other than that, I worked on a project last year called Newcastle 360 Reasons to be in Newcastle, which was a really fun, innovative project worked on, and it was a real community effort. But through that project, I got introduced to Steve Waite from the Business Centre and Nathaniel Babington from the NCC Smart Cities team, and I just really admired those guys, and I think the drive that they've got and their love for innovation, and they're just wanting to, at a community level, like really drive collaboration between all the different sectors. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.